Hey guys, welcome back to After Hours with me, Jimmy Thistle. We're in the car today. I just had a bit of free time because it's a bit wet out there today, so I thought I'd do my little intro and outro for today's amazing guest. We have Kaitlin. This is out tomorrow, Thursday, which is Caitlin's birthday, and it's a big one. So just please pop up, before you continue listening, pop on over to Caitlin's Instagram, which is sober as a mother focused, and wish her happy birthday. And yes, there is a play on words with sober as a mother focused. When you start saying it over in your head and say it out loud, it's very funny. So Caitlin's got an amazing Instagram. She's just growing from strength to strength with her, tales of her debauchery, but as a warning and as a kind of, let's not do this, guys. And if you're getting into kind of a sticky situation with alcohol, drugs, etc., then listen to Kaitlin and start getting your life back together. It was just so lovely having Kaitlin on the podcast. She's just an amazing guest, and she had sadly, tragically, quite an unhappy childhood, and escaped into kind of fantasy films and books and things like that, because tragically she did have just quite a bit of death in her kind of family and in her life when she was growing up, so much so that at age 9 she found herself sat on a window ledge just thinking, I'm gonna jump. And for a 9-year-old to be kind of contemplating that is just so kind of tragic. And Kaitlin, it was kind of accepted in her kind of life that she was having a drink from 9, but kind of okay to do it in front of her family from the age of about 13, which is it's so horrible to think about that now, as adults, that that's just a child doing that. And so Kaitlin kind of, obviously it was kind of developing through her teen years and things like that, just so much so that she just wanted escapism from her life. She wanted this kind of fantasy of, like as she said, her first line of coke at 16 was kind of in this kind of penthouse suite in Kensington, and just like living that life, like hobnobbing with kind of Hollywood stars and things like that. She didn't want to have this kind of normal life, although one of her dreams was just to be a really good mother, which she is now. She's doing an amazing job. So it's just kind of, it's a really kind of dark tale from the start, but Kaitlin obviously has changed her life around and really started to kind of make amends with her previous life. And like there's so many similarities in Caitlin's stories for me. We were on the same kind of path, although completely different. It's that weird kind of addictive personality where you don't see a way out, and the only thing that's going to help you and keep you happy and alive as you think is your addiction, and when you need that and what you need it for. So yeah, amazing episode. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. So sit back, guys, listen for the similarities as always, and not the differences. See you then, guys. Cheers. Kaitlin, welcome to After Hours. How are you today?
I'm good, Jimmy. Thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Like we were just saying off air, I've just been watching that Alex Honnold Climbing Up Taipei 101, I think it's called. And I've just been, like, I know he survived. Spoilers to people that are listening, but this won't be out for a while. Like, I'm still getting sweaty palms. I don't know. And I've never been a climber. Maybe I climbed trees when I was little, but it just seems to be something that I get a buzz out of watching. I don't know if that's related to kind of my, addictions and whatnot.
I was gonna say, I wonder
It's
if
a
that's an
massive
adrenaline
dopamine hit
thing.
by watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just by watching it, because I know I'm safe and he's, but I'm just like, I know he survives, but I'm like, yeah. So that's what I've been kind of doing this morning. Yeah.
I am going to check
So
this out now because I didn't know what you were talking about. Now I'm going to have to go and have a look.
well, they did it live on Netflix last night. So it was meant to be 1 o'clock in the morning, and then they cancelled it because of the weather, and then it went back on. But obviously, I was asleep at that point. So they did it live on Netflix. So if he dropped, like, there's no nets, no nothing. He did it without ropes, and it's like, that's it, gone. So it was,
I can
yeah,
see
pretty
how that would
scary.
relate to the life of an addict and an alcoholic, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking to a friend years ago, and he was massively into like fast motorbikes, doing just lots of extreme sports. And I was never into that kind of stuff. But when I thought about it, like, he was getting his dopamine hit from all of that, whereas I was getting it elsewhere, closer to
Hmm.
home, I guess. So yeah, there are these things kind of related. And I think if Alex Honnold wasn't out doing that, he might be doing something else, you know? It's a bit of a
I wouldn't
kind of a
like to
catch
say.
22. Well, exactly. Kaitlin, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about your kind of childhood, where you grew up, and when you had your first drink. We'll take it from there.
Yeah, okay, cool. So my childhood was, I never know what the right word to say about this, because as I go through recovery, my
Hmm.
childhood, my view of it can change. Certain parts of it can change, that's for sure. Um,
Sure.
but what I will say is that I was a very unhappy child. I don't remember ever feeling okay. And, when I look back with the hindsight that I've got now, I can definitely see traits of the alcoholic addict. For example, I would say my first addiction was fantasy. And escapism. I'd escape into books or
Hmm.
films and drawings and disassociate myself from reality in that way. And it was definitely a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
Um, Food also was another thing as a child. I was secretive about it. I'd steal it, I'd hide it. I wouldn't be honest about what I'd eaten and how I'd got it. And
Right.
I've always felt less than. I always had severe FOMO. Like, what you're doing, I need to do that. What you've got, I need
Hmm.
that. Um, and I think when you sort of couple that with some abuse and some neglect, sometimes I ask myself, what was I born this way, or is this is it a result of my childhood? And
What did they
my
say?
answer is
Nature versus nurture, isn't it?
nature versus nurture. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I look back, I think there definitely were signs, but do we have the monopoly on escaping into fantasy as children and feeling less
No.
than and overeating? No, people do that who are
No.
not addicts. You know, there was quite a lot that I went through as a child with regards to family situations. We moved around a lot. I went to lots of different schools. I was 90% of my school life, I was bullied. I
Mm.
experienced quite a lot of death and loss as well as a child, and that certainly didn't help. And I actually remember being 9 years old and sitting on my windowsill in my bedroom, ready to jump out because I was so unhappy that I wanted to die. And
Jesus.
that's not normal.
No.
What is it about me that made me unable to cope with life? Yes, a lot did go on. I think, but then, you hear stories of people where they say, I've got no childhood trauma, and they still become addicts. So I don't know. I don't know
Yeah. I
if
mean,
that's
I
what it was.
I've said it before in the podcast. Like, my parents split up when I was 6, and the loss of a few grandparents and things like that, but no real major trauma to speak of. And like,
Mm,
I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, all of my group of friends that I went to school with, we all, maybe I was the instigator, but we all started doing the same nefarious things at the same time, and it was just,
mm.
but, I'm not in touch with a lot of them, but I know for a fact that none of them ended up like I did. So we all kind of grew up in the same
Yeah.
village, all similar kind of childhoods and all that. But then I ended up this way and others didn't. And then when I got sober and started researching and looking into my past, I was like, what has caused me to be like this? But I didn't have any major trauma to speak of. And then, but
Mm.
as you say, there are people that have sometimes more trauma than maybe what you went through, but then they don't end up. So where does it kind of, well, I don't understand my own
I
kind of
do think,
addictions.
yeah, I do think I was born with a predisposition to it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that the circumstances in my childhood exacerbated it.
Of
And,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
I was, as a child, really, I was allowed to drink. I think
Right.
I would have been 9 when I was bought my first drink. Um, yeah, I was 9 years old. And it's funny you say that about you and your friends, because I remember it. And I was with, I won't name her, but I was with a friend doing that. And both of
Hmm.
us have turned out to be alcoholic addicts.
Right.
Um,
Right. And the thing is, though, Kaitlin, like I say that they're not, but they may be in that kind of middle of the road grey area drinking, but where it is a problem, but they're not admitting it yet. I don't know, as I say, because there's a few of them that we're not in touch anymore. So,
yeah.
as much as I'm saying they're not as outspoken as I am with it, they might still be having their own kind of demons as well. So,
This is the thing, like,
yeah,
how well did you try and hide what you were doing? You don't know how well other people are hiding what they're doing.
exactly.
And also,
Yeah, yeah,
addiction shows up differently for different people.
yeah,
Sometimes it shows up through work.
yeah.
That can be really
Shopping.
destructive to somebody's life and their family. Shopping, that's something I'm still working on, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
It really
gym
does
can
show
be
up
a thing
differently.
as well. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, it's fine. And I really agree with you on this gym thing, because I speak to lots of people through my social media, and a lot of them say, "Oh, I quit doing that and I took over with a gym. This is much healthier. This is great for me." And
Hmm.
my answer to that is, what are you going to do if you get an injury? How are
Yeah,
you going to manage then? The
yeah.
gym is not the answer. In my opinion, the gym is not the answer. Yeah, is it good for you and should you do it? Yeah, of course you should. But it shouldn't be replaced.
No, and
Addiction shouldn't be replaced with the gym.
it can get to this point where it's like all they do, it's like,
Mm.
maybe twice a day sometimes, or at least five
Excessive.
times a week. 5 times a week to me is, I think that's far too much going to the gym, but it can be. But then it becomes that image centered thing, and a lot of the guys I know, especially the younger ones, they're taking steroids and things like that to pump themselves
Mm,
up. And it's like, where does it end? Like,
mm,
I go running, but I don't. Well, at the moment I'm doing it every day for January, but like it's not an obsessive thing, because I'm quite
mhm.
careful not to let things become another, kind of obsession or another addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to
Yeah.
still watch out for that. I think, yeah, I definitely still have to watch out for my addiction behaviors and where I can become obsessive about things. But I don't give myself a hard time. If I catch myself doing something, I'm like, wicked, I caught myself. Like, that's cool. I can do
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
with it. I'm able to do that now. Whereas, from being a child up until, I think I was 36 when I got sober,
Uh-huh.
that wasn't something I was able to do. But
I think
sorry, going back to,
sorry, Caitlin, I think that the difference is that a lot of these other addictions that I'm not taking away from them, like gambling, shopping, gym, whatever, they're not a physical dependency, they're more of a mental
they're not
dependency.
deadly.
So for you and, yeah, they're not deadly. For you and I and other people who are caught in a substance addiction, it's a physical addiction, So
Yeah.
even if
Having
even
said
if you get
that,
rid of that, yeah,
sorry, having said that though, with gambling, I would say actually it is deadly, because there are so many,
of course, yeah,
particularly men, who have gambling addictions that commit suicide because they
yeah,
can't handle it. So actually, I think gambling is deadly, and food can also be deadly.
of
You
course,
know,
yeah. Sorry, I
but
mean,
I
we
hear
we
what you're
could we just don't
saying,
know,
and
but yeah,
cigarettes and stuff. But I hear what you're saying. That they don't have that sort of immediate danger like drugs and alcohol do.
yeah, because
Um,
withdrawal from gambling or let's say shopping or whatever, there's not that same physical dependency where you go into withdrawal, which is like a medical symptom, and and you have to. Well, alcohol, I think, especially, can be the most dangerous because that can actually, the
mhm.
withdrawal can kill you.
Yeah,
Whereas I don't think for things like opioids it can actually be fatal. I think it's horrible. It can be much worse than the alcohol withdrawal, but it's not fatal, and that's the kind of
yeah.
difference there. Alcohol is the only fatal one, I
Alcohol's the
think. But
worst.
yeah, yeah,
I think alcohol
seizures,
is the
heart
worst
failure.
drug, but it seems to be the most socially acceptable drug, which blows my mind. And I've definitely
Yeah,
find you can get people who they drink a lot or they're alcoholics and they will look down on drug addicts. And I'm like, mate, you're one. Like,
yeah.
what are you doing? In fact,
So
yours is more dead than mine.
well, last year, I think it was stats from the year before, and I'll post this on the show notes. But so tobacco contributed to, I think it was 8 million deaths worldwide. Let's something like 8 million. And this was in 2024. Alcohol was second and it was 1.8 million. So it wasn't as high as tobacco, but under that, all the illicit and illegal drugs like that everyone's kind of using it. So it wasn't just like opioids or whatever. It was like cocaine, heroin. We're all clumped together, and they
Mm.
only accumulated something like 450,000, which obviously still a massive amount.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
it's not
like,
okay, but it's not,
ah,
it's not,
but it's
yeah,
massively under the two legal drugs. Like what?
yeah,
Like where does that come from? It's insane.
I don't
But as you
know. And
say,
then, no, sorry, I was interrupting you.
no. Sorry, I've interrupted you, but that's the conversation. But I was going to say, like, as you said, people said, "Oh my gosh, someone that's a heroin addict or they're a cokehead or whatever, they're having this, this stigma against them because they're a drug
Mm,
addict and it's the worst of the worst." And but you know what? Like, alcoholism is so widespread, and I know I'm using that word, but that doesn't matter. It's like if you're going home and sinking a bottle of wine every second night, that's you've got an issue there. Plain and
mm,
simple. But
yeah.
people don't want to admit it because they're holding down a job, they're doing this, they got the family, blah blah blah. But they're not an addict, yeah, which I
Yeah, and
disagree
I
with.
hear that a lot. I meet a lot of people actually who tell me that they're grey area drinkers, and I'm think, okay,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that grey area drinking thing. I
Well,
don't know
I
if it's just
think,
because it's not me, and I think, look, you can definitely be like a hardened drinker. You can drink every day and not be an alcoholic. Like, I get that. Maybe that's what the grey area drinking is, but um,
yeah.
I definitely think people can hide behind that label when actually you're an alcoholic.
Oh,
But
I know.
people
I
don't
mean,
want
I
to
think,
admit it. It's a horrible thing to admit.
yeah, I do agree. I mean, it is a term that people more often than not use because they don't want to use the word alcoholic. I don't really I don't use the word alcoholic for myself anymore because I'm not physically dependent on it. I did sit in rooms for, over a couple of years saying my name's Jimmy and I'm an addict or I'm an alcoholic because it fit and that's what I was. But people don't want to use that word because it has such a negative connotation to it. All
Yeah,
you
and
all
to
you think
each
of
their
is like,
own.
yeah, exactly. But I
100%
think
to each their own.
using the grey area drinking one, if it helps people to come to terms with what's wrong with them, then that's cool. But also, if you're not as bad as I was or you were, and you think, right, that's okay, you're going to end up like that bad. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get any better. It
Mm.
doesn't go
No, it's
away. It
progressive and
only gets
deadly.
worse.
It only
Exactly.
gets worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
the more and more
alcohol's a
people that can
weird one.
stop.
Like, you're
Go on,
allowed
sorry. Yeah.
to. I was just saying, alcohol is such a weird one because although, in my opinion, it is the worst one. That's the one most of us sort of start on, isn't it? Like I said,
Yeah.
I was allowed to drink alcohol when I was 9. By 11, I was smoking cigarettes. By 13, I was allowed to go out and get drunk. Like, that's
Wow.
wild in my opinion. But
Yeah. Do
some of that
you,
parenting, yes, some of that
what,
society was different when we were
yeah. I
younger.
mean, I wasn't like, not saying I was allowed or not allowed, but my parents, if I came home really drunk from like 14, 15, 16, like I got maybe grounded or, they came down on me like a ton of bricks, but they knew it was going on and not saying it was allowed. I wouldn't be able to do it in the house until later on, but, um, it was kind of the society was like this is what everyone was doing, back then.
Mm.
And I think things are changing, hopefully. But yeah, it's have you what so is there any kind of would you say problem area drinking in your family? Did your parents like a drink or was that
Um, do you know what?
like
All I will say is that I was around drink and drugs as a child.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I wouldn't say who because I don't think that's fair on them. They're
No,
not
of course not.
here.
No.
Um, but one thing I do really remember that I find quite pivotal in my journey is I do remember being 11 and my one of my family members was in the office with my other family members, and I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she was like, "Well, I think you're old enough now, and you can be trusted to know that we're smoking weed." And I was like, "Oh my God, drugs? What the
Mm,
hell? You're not doing
mm,
that, are you?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do, and it's okay. It's not bad. People will tell you it's bad, but it's not bad." So I was like, "Oh, okay," because you know what, you get warned, don't you, at school, drugs are bad, don't do drugs. But by that point, I'm already drinking, and my family members are telling me that drugs are good. And all I'm seeing from people drinking and taking drugs is the grown-ups are happier and they
Yeah.
argue less and there's less shouting. And, you know, that for me was quite a pivotal point, because it made me think, well, okay, cool. When I'm a grown-up, that's what grown-ups do. And that's what will make me happy.
Because that's
Yeah.
what you're seeing. That's the kind of the relationship you're seeing with it. But
Mm-hmm.
that's when they're, and going back again, sorry, I people always used to say, oh, that weed's the gateway drug and it will lead on to harder drugs and this, that, and the other. The gateway drug for me was alcohol. Like, I didn't do anything until I'd had
100%.
drinking, you know, and
100%.
then it was weed and other stuff. But like
And
that whole
cigarettes.
thing about, yeah, it all went hand in hand. You know, it was like
Mm.
everything stemmed after I'd had those first couple of sessions drinking. And then
Yeah,
it
I
was
was,
like,
you know, I was drinking from 9. I didn't smoke weed until I was 15. So what's
yeah,
that's
so
6 years. No, sorry, weed is not the gateway drug in my opinion.
it's really
Um,
not. And to
did
be
you
fair,
see that I've
like
still got a
weed,
bit of a defense thing against weed because it was the love of my life, and I'm
yeah,
still
and the
like
thing was,
still defend it.
the only reason I gave that up when I was 22, Kaitlin, was when I was sat in my bedsit flat and I had all my friends around, they were all having a smoke, and I told a joke, and I can't remember even if it was funny or not, and they were all laughing, and I suddenly was like, why are they laughing at me? What's good? Like the paranoia just complete. And I'd been
Okay.
since I was 14 up to 22, and then I knocked it on the head. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore because I don't like how it's making me feeling. But it didn't stop anything else. It was just once I'd stopped that. But that was more. I've said it before. That was like not a. It wasn't like a party thing for us. It wasn't like, right, Saturday night, let's go and do that. This was like a daily thing. It was part of
Mm.
my wake up in the morning. That's what I did all through the
Wake and
week.
bake,
And
yeah.
then weekend we'd go out. So that was just a recreational thing. It was like having a cup of tea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, do you know, I can remember the first time I smoked a joint, and it was probably one of the, well, it's probably the one moment I can remember, the first moment actually, I can remember feeling happy, laughing, joyous, free. I absolutely fell in love with it, but I didn't do it again until the day I finished my GCSEs, because that's something in me was like, this is going to get you. And I finished
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
GCSEs,
yeah.
I finished my
I'll get
last
that out the way.
exam, went and smoked a joint, and from that day I smoked every day, morning, noon and night.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
it's I don't even know if I'd say, I thought it was recreational. It wasn't recreational. It had a complete hold over me
Of course.
from that day.
Yeah.
um yeah,
It
but do
makes
you
you
know, even as
lethargic. It makes you
yeah, but
kind of
I liked that.
sluggish. No, I know, but what I mean is, it doesn't let you get on in life. And if you're doing that from an early age, it's like, what ambitions might you had, you know, and inspirations, they might have been kind of
Oh, for
suppressed.
sure.
And
I quit
yeah,
college because
yeah,
I was too stoned. I couldn't do it. I was far too stoned. I was far too interested in going out and taking drugs. But even at school, you know, I used to sneak alcohol into school at lunchtime. I'd run home, get alcohol, and bring it into
mhm.
school and sit there in the class with at the afternoon, thinking I was hilarious. Um, and then as I got a bit older and we were allowed to go out at lunchtime, I mean, I can remember being in the same pub as my teachers at lunchtime sometimes,
School uniform.
going back to school pissed. Um, but yeah, it was that day. I remember that exam day, smoking green, absolutely loved it. And then,
Mhm.
so I was 16 by then, and I was 16 when I did my first line of coke.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that moment, that line, I can remember the line. I can remember what I did it with. I remember where I was. That was when I felt, now I'm a grown up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Now you're
now
kind
life
of
will be
sophisticated.
okay. Yeah, yeah. And then I kind of got swept up in the. I thought it was quite glamorous, if I'm
Of course
honest.
it
I
is.
was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
naive and young, although I thought I was a grown up. I really fucking wasn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, of course you are.
Yeah,
But it's that
sorry.
whole thing where it's like, you know, I mean, in the 80s, it was what the yuppies and all the people on Wall Street were doing coke and this, that, and the other. But then it became like, it was still expensive, but it became everyone was doing it. So it lost that glamour, but we still thought we are sophisticated, like rock stars doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even
100%.
though,
And my first line, I was in a penthouse on High Street Kensington. So I was like,
wow,
oh,
well,
look
you
at
were
me.
living high life, yeah.
I'd come from, look, I had nothing growing up. We had no money, like
Yeah.
nothing, to being there. And then all of a sudden, I'm on the London club scene and I'm partying with people, Hollywood stars, and life's completely changed now. I'm like, I'm associating cocaine with this lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it was part of the glamour. And you know, as I said before, I was so unhappy before. This was a whole new life and a whole new world for me, and I fully embraced it.
Mm-hmm. And how did
Um,
that? So, like, what? Obviously, you did your GCSEs, and then did you go straight into work or uni,
well,
or
no,
you
I
said you
I
gave up
tried to.
college for a bit?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
tried to go to college, but yeah, I was too stoned, so I had to leave. And then I went and worked. Yeah, I went and started working, just in a
Mm-hmm.
shop. Um, you know, and I liked that, but I was sort of. I thought that there were no consequences to my drinking, my lifestyle at that
Mm-hmm.
age. But there really was, because I'd get into trouble at work. I'd be late for work. You know, I without a doubt would turn up at work stoned every day. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to work for that joint, and one for lunch break and one for my tea break. And um because I didn't realise, and I just couldn't handle life on life's terms. I couldn't cope with normal life. So I used drugs pretty
Yeah,
much,
yeah,
yeah, well, every day. Yeah, every
yeah.
day. I was working, but yeah, like I said, I didn't think the consequences were coming in, but they definitely were, because, you know, I'd find myself in these quite crazy situations, like being locked in trap houses and I wasn't allowed to leave. I was
Mm.
kidnapped once. I was nearly raped twice. I was found myself in the house of, I won't say who, but they were a very big international sex trafficking gang. You know, all these
Right.
like crazy scenarios, but to be honest, all the good still outweighed the bad. So I shrugged those things off. I was willing to just ignore them, because I felt like if I didn't have the drugs and the lifestyle, I'd just be the old Kaitlin, and I didn't want to be
Yeah,
her. I
you
wanted to
just
be
you're
the
just
new
normal. You're
Kaitlin.
just, yeah. You wanted to be someone in your eyes that was being special rather than, you know, just
Yeah,
being yourself, which I'm sure is amazingly special. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but you're thinking, especially when you're young, you want this kind of, I guess it's almost ambition to be like part of this party scene and living life to the max and all that. It was exactly the same.
yeah,
And you think
yeah,
that is a form of living, but it's really
yeah.
not. Yeah. And
No,
and you're
it
willing to put
wasn't.
up all this kind of danger and risky lifestyle in order to live that life. Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
so scary to look back, isn't it?
yeah, it was. And do you know, I had my boyfriend was a dealer, and
Mm,
I'll never forget even him turning around to me and saying, like, "Do you have to?" And that was a point where I was like, "Oh, you know, maybe I'm doing a little bit more than my friends are. I'm doing it in different situations to my friends. Maybe, you know, this isn't quite right." And ultimately, he broke up with me, and I was devastated, and I didn't handle that very well at all. But my point is that, you know, I think, you know, when your dealer boyfriend's telling you you're doing it too much, maybe you're doing it
yeah.
a bit too much. And yeah, to be honest, the years that followed that, I grew up, and I got a job, and I could probably count on one hand how many times I did any kind of, even a drink. Like, I just didn't do it for a really,
And
really long time.
it stemmed from that breakup, from him saying those things and you thinking, oh, right, I've
I
actually
think
pushed
it
this
was a
too far.
culmination of things. It was
Yeah.
that, I'd read a couple of books, actually. I'd read Daniela Westbrook's autobiography,
All
and
right. Yeah.
I could see myself in it, and I was like, okay, that's not ideal. And then I'd read another book. I recommend this book to anyone in recovery. It's called Rachel's Holiday by Marion Keyes.
Oh yeah,
Even if
okay.
you're a man, read that book. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And I was like, oh
I haven't
shit,
read any
okay,
Man and Keys, but
I'm
my wife
her.
has. Yeah.
And and some other stuff that, you know, probably won't go into, but yeah, I did stop for ages. But what I did do is instead of having the drama in my life that way, I found myself in a really abusive situation. And, you know, I was very much controlled and coerced and bullied and manipulated and blackmailed, and it was physical, and that was wild. And so I actually would say that was probably one of the most, in fact, it is the most pivotal part of my journey, because when I was a child and I
Hmm.
was unhappy, I had growing up to look forward to. When I was in that situation, I didn't see a way out, and that
Yeah.
really scared me. Um, but you know, I
Do you
think
think that, and this was a partner, I'm guessing, that was, you know, abusive and manipulative and all of that?
it was just somebody in my life.
Yeah. And do you think, and I might be wrong, but like, do you think that maybe because of past traumas and things like that, you felt like you weren't deserved of a kind of
Yeah,
happy
that,
life?
and I didn't notice it for a long time.
Yeah.
But it was literally like I went from one situation like that into another situation like that. I
Yeah.
didn't know any different. And I was a very fearful person. I was always scared. And yeah, but that was pretty wild. And I managed to escape with that situation. And I always said, like, I don't know what happened. I don't know how. Just one day the strength came over me to be like, I'm done. I've had
Hmm.
enough. And it was really similar to the moment when I knew that I'd had enough of drinking and taking drugs. It was the same thing.
Hmm.
I don't know what happened. Just something came over me. And I like to think that that was the universe or my higher power or God, or whatever you want to call it, coming in exactly like, this is when I need you most. And,
Yeah. Well,
you know,
it's your strength coming up. You know, you've
I
kind of
just got out of
had too
it.
much of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. But do you know what? This is going to sound really weird, because I said to you that I hadn't taken anything for ages, but what happened, so because I think I hadn't actually dealt with any of that trauma, I just built it up. My body started to react to it.
Hmm.
And do you know, I've never told anyone, I've never said this online, but I am going to say it because I know I'm not the only person that has this situation. My
Hmm.
body, I couldn't go to the toilet anymore.
Yeah.
And it was because my body was so like scared and in fight, flight, or freeze. And anyone
Oh,
who's
wow.
ever done cocaine knows that the first thing, as soon as you've made that call and it's on the way, you can go to the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, so that's how it started creeping back in for me. That, and I won't put it all down to that. Part of it was like, okay, I've got out of this situation. I want to be me again. And
Uh-huh.
me was the party girl. But it was definitely, that's what brought it in, from it being just going out at the weekend again to midweek using. Um, and it's funny because most people wouldn't come out and publicly say that online, but it is something I'm hearing more and more as I'm talking to other people. They're like, yeah, I couldn't go to the toilet without lying.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
people
it's
say that it's not, that it's only psychologically addictive, but I definitely disagree with that. I know I had physical, but when I came off of it, I had physical problems as well. Um, so yeah,
I,
that was,
I think any type of chemical can have you know, an addictive reaction to it, especially if it's
mm,
something that is as moreish as cocaine, for instance. There is
yeah.
definitely, maybe not as bad as alcohol and heroin, for instance, but there is definitely, yeah,
Oh,
there's
it's
gonna be
definitely
some kind of
moreish.
withdrawal.
Moreish is the right word as well, isn't it? Because I always
Yeah.
think like addiction and alcoholism is, it's the illness of more, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the more you do, the more you need to do.
Yeah. And it's not just
And
like in an evening, you know, you maybe, I don't know, spend 50 quid on a wrap or whatever it is, but it's like, I know it's a lot cheaper now, but that's never enough. That's the thing with that. It's like you're constantly chasing that initial first hit. And it's the same with
yeah,
alcohol. The first 20 minutes to an hour of a night are definitely the best, and then you're
Yeah.
constantly chasing that but you're getting more and more sloppy drunk and you know, kind of obnoxious or whatever as the night goes on. It's the first 20 minutes to an hour is the best bit, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
After that, all
it was
downhill.
the best, yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I did really like it, but um I'd say, you know, addiction and alcoholism, whether or not you know you've got it, it's
Hmm.
chronic and it's progressive. So inevitably, you know, it just got more and more and worse and worse. And I think probably by the time I was almost 30, I started having different types of consequences. So the paranoia was really starting to kick in, and I was starting to hear things. And I now know that that was drug induced psychosis. At the
Mm.
time, I would have said, "Of course it's not. Don't be silly. This isn't affecting me. I'm absolutely fine." But I wasn't fine, and I think it was also starting to become a bit more apparent to other people because I'd say I was a size 4 to 6 for. I was tiny. I barely
Hmm.
ate. I barely slept. I was an emotional wreck. I was rubbish at work. You know, people were starting to notice, and it was probably around that time as well. I remember hitting that fuck it button.
Yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean.
well,
The
same
fuck it
thing
button.
really.
But also,
And
just to go back, like when I got to about 30 and I started, well, I did a lot of geographicals and moved about, but I noticed that
mm,
people were starting to settle down and have families and get married and all that, whereas I wasn't doing any of that. I was just still going out and party, party, party. And it's
yeah,
like,
and I thought the people doing that were really boring.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You think, well, what are you doing? This is not how I'm going to live my life. But actually, and I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but they're just kind of getting to that age where it's like, we don't want these hangovers anymore, you know?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but we just didn't have that
No,
off
as you
button
say, we
until
pressed the fuck it
until
button. Yeah.
things have to get, I think for people like us, things just have to get so painful and so bad that the only other option is to do something about it.
Well, what did they say? Jails, institutions, and death. And I did a bit of
Yeah.
jail, did a bit of institutional stuff, and then I was like, no, I don't fancy the third one just yet. So,
Yeah. 100. But that's exactly what it is. I think for me, like I towards the end, I realized I was killing myself, but I also realized I didn't want to die. And it's
yeah.
like, okay, well, what are you going to do about this then?
Yeah. So sorry, go back. You said you pushed the fuck it button when you were just early 30s there.
Yeah, I did. And yeah, I can remember I was in my car and I just thought, oh, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do as much as I want when I want to do it. I don't care if I get into debt. And at the time, I thought that that was me having control over the situation. But obviously, I now know that
Mm.
that's when I truly lost control. My head was telling me I still knew what I was doing and this was my choice. Um, but of course, it wasn't. It was totally unmanageable. And it's, you know, I
Hmm.
still went out and stuff. I did still do that, but I definitely started having more kitchen parties and um
On your own, yeah.
yeah, well, sometimes they were by myself, sometimes they were with other people, but even when they were with other people, by a certain time I was like, right, everyone's got to go. I'm done. I've had enough. All you can all go, because I wanted to carry on by myself.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Even and it's fun because my head would tell me like this is going to be fun, you're going to do it all by yourself, but all I'd fucking do is be on my own, turn off all the lights, turn off the TV, crawl underneath a window so that whoever was, I thought the SWAT team were watching me so that they couldn't see what I was doing. I didn't want my neighbours to know I was awake. I'd be holding my breath so I could hear every little sound that was going on. Like it wasn't fun. It wasn't a party for one anymore. It was hell for one.
Yeah, but the disease tells us, like, it's a disease of isolation, and it tells us that this
Mm.
is what we want to do and this is what is fun. You know, I was like sneaking downstairs at like 5, 6 in the morning. This is when I was with my ex, and I knew she had wine in the back of her car because she poured everything and hidden everything else, and I knew she had a box of wine, not a box, but a box of 6 bottles of wine in the back of her car. She'd kept it there because her dad had sent it over for Christmas and he was coming over from France and whatnot. So I was going out and basically just pilfering this wine out the back of the car at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, how is that?
Mm.
I'm not working, but they're going to then get up. I'll have hidden the bottle of wine somewhere. They'll get up, they'll go to school or work and all that, and I'll just sit at home and, you know, drink all this wine that I've just taken out of my partner's car. Like, what how's that?
Yeah,
You
and then
know,
you've got to
living.
figure out how to hide it. Like I used to feel like
And then
when I
replace it.
came into when I came into recovery, I was like, I don't have a problem with alcohol, and then I was like, then I started finding empty vodka bottles in the back of my wardrobe, and seeing like I used to refill vodka bottles with water.
Mm,
And if I couldn't drink, I mean, sorry, if I couldn't do drugs, I'd just drink like a fish instead. But yeah, I was definitely delusional. I thought I didn't have a problem. I didn't think it was part of my problem.
so those were bottles that you had hidden yourself but forgotten about.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. I know that. I know that. And it's like
yeah. You
sometimes I
know,
would find
drinking
the
too
bottle and
much at
I'd be like,
lunchtime.
yeah,
And then it's like, oh, I've got to do this. How am I going to pick kids up from school? Okay,
yeah,
we're going to have to all walk. Or I'm going to have to phone or email the school and say,
yeah,
oh, I've been caught up. Can you ask them to walk home? Like, okay, but alcohol's not part of my problem. I think it
yeah.
might be.
Like I did the same, and we only lived about 10-minute, 15-minute walk from the house, from the school. And I would go every now and then. She would text me and say, "Can you pick the kids up today?" And I'd be like, "Oh." Sometimes I'd just say no because if I was in a right mess, I'd be like, "Nah." But if I would, I called it my sober level, which would mean probably about a quarter, well, at least a half bottle of vodka, and I would be like sober. You could tell, you wouldn't tell I was drinking, but I know if I went to the school, there'd be other parents there, and so I would just kind of sneak in the back, and I would stand in
Mm,
the middle of the playground, far away from anyone, because I knew that I would be stinking, and I didn't want to have a conversation with anyone, and I would just get them, and then we'd get back up the road. But I feel so ashamed now that I went and picked these kids up,
same.
you know, under the
Hmm.
influence, and it's like, but what else was I to do?
Yeah, I feel I do still feel shame and guilt. And sometimes people say to me, how can you share this stuff online that you shared? Like, aren't you ashamed or aren't you embarrassed? And it's like, part of me is, yeah, but part of me knows how powerful sharing my experience can be for another mum. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important that I do it.
I think it is. And also, I think that us being open and upfront about it and you telling your story, it's going to help people. But also, if someone has the audacity to say, oh, how are you not ashamed and all that? Yeah, of course you have shame and you're dealing with it. But there's parents that will be going home this week, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, whatever. They'll be coming home, put the kids to bed and sinking a bottle of wine and thinking nothing of it. Do you know what I mean? But it's
Mm.
like, what happens if anything happens to little Tommy or Philippa?
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And they need to go to hospital. You can't drive
I've
them.
said
Do you know what
that
I mean? This is the
so many
thing.
times. I've said that, and I think like people do judge me, and that's fine. Like, let them. But
Yeah.
I think, look, with us, when we go through the recovery process, and I know you said you started off in AA, didn't you? So I'm assuming you did
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did
Yeah.
mine more through NA, but I started in
Okay.
AA and then I moved to NA because I preferred NA. But yeah, same
So
same
when we
business.
do that, we spend a lot of time looking at ourselves and our behaviors and what we did wrong and what we could do right. Whereas most parents don't do that. They never do that. So yeah, I can sit here and say I couldn't pick my kids up from school or I couldn't take them to hospital if they were ill. But actually, I think most parents do that if they're
Yeah.
really honest with themselves. Like you said, 2 glasses of wine, you should not be you can't drive your child to hospital, or you shouldn't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
used to see mums all the time because I worked in a pub and the mums would come in at lunchtime, have a couple of glasses of wine, go into the school run. Well, you
yeah.
shouldn't be doing that either.
Or bring the kids in after school. I mean, my mate lives in Ely across,
Yeah.
and he was saying that he goes to his local pub, and it's like it's more like a bistro thing. It's lovely, kind of all decked out. It's really nice, and you know. But he says like 4 o'clock every day. He's not in every day, but you know he'll maybe pop in for it because they sell coffee as well. And he said every day 4 o'clock, without fail, they come past and all the kids are running around, and it's a bar. Do you know what I mean? They're running around
Mm,
like it's a playground and all that. They're sinking gin and tonics, glasses of wine, and they're in there for about an hour and a half, and then the place is in absolute state, and then they get up and leave, and that's every day. And it's like this mummy wine culture thing where
mhm.
they're okay because they're all driving Range Rovers or whatever, but it's okay because they're sophisticated. It's like, well, no, you're clearly not capable of looking after your kids because you're all drunk. And like, I'm
Yeah,
not
and
saying
listen,
they're
I'm
bad
not
parents or
judging
anything, but it's
because that
like,
was me, you
you,
know. Well,
Yeah,
not
no, I
with
know,
mine,
but,
it's the
but
Range
what I'm
Rover.
saying is when they start judging us, it's like, well, where is this judgment coming from? You know, like,
Yeah. Do you know what always cracks me up is when somebody says, why did you start in the first place? And I'm like,
mm,
have you ever had a glass of wine? Have
yeah,
you ever had
yeah,
beer? Have you ever had one? Because that's where I
yeah,
started. I didn't know I
yeah.
was going to turn out to be like this. You're
We didn't,
just,
we didn't,
I
we
don't know.
didn't set it aside like at 9 or 14 or 12, whatever, and thought, right, by the time I'm 35, 30, 40, I want to be a full blown alcoholic. Of course, we didn't want to do that, but
No.
it's
What?
this legal, and I think this is going back to the beginning because I'm stepfather to 3 amazing kids now, and I'm trying my best. Not that it's difficult, but I'm trying to really gauge where they're seeing alcohol as a normalized behavior. Do you know what I mean? Like certain parties, I'm like, right, that's probably not the best place to go because there's so much alcohol going on here, and all the parents are just making it out to be this normalized thing in front of their kids. And I'm like,
Mm,
that's not where we want to be because okay, I know they're going to have a drink and they're going to get older and they're going to do this and that, but I want them to know that it's not every single social, interaction that there's alcohol involved in. And I think that's not where a lot of people go wrong, but I think because it's so normalized, they just think, oh, it's okay, it's alcohol, I'll do this. This is what my parents do. They have a glass of wine here, they have a glass of wine there. Like Jen barely drinks. I don't obviously drink. So there's no alcohol in our house to speak of. But, I think that's the problem elsewhere where there is this normalized behavior with alcohol. And they think, well, it's
mm.
just a bit of fun, isn't it? Where actually it's not
Yeah.
always a bit of fun.
I think so. I think that's more so for like our generation though, but I'm definitely seeing like my daughter's age, they're not as bothered as we were.
Yeah. I think they
There's
know the
not, there's a
dangers
lot.
though.
Yeah, maybe it's that, maybe it's people, like us raising awareness like this, maybe I'm
Yeah.
sure that
Yeah.
helps.
But I think,
Um,
like my stepdaughter, she's 13, and she said, "Oh, she says I think I will probably get drunk once, but only once." She said because I don't really want to do it lots. She said because I
mm,
have Googled it and I do know that it's really bad for you. As in, like she's
mm.
Googled it and it's like liver disease, cancers, and all that. And I'm like, okay, she's Googled it. She knows. Like we didn't have Google in our day or very limited
No, to
Google
be
anyway.
honest though, I don't think that would have changed my trajectory even if I had known all of that stuff. I'm just being
No,
honest.
I mean it did have warnings on cigarette packets, and I didn't
Yeah,
stop
we
smoking for a
knew.
long
We knew it
time.
wasn't good for
Yeah,
us and we still did
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, it's funny you were saying, when we grew up. When I grew up, all my friends would be like, "Oh, I want to be a vet, or I want to be a nurse." I just wanted to be a good mum. That's all I ever wanted to be. And I think it really got to a point where I was like, "Kate, you're not being a great mum here." I mean, look, my kids were fed and clothed and washed. They had a clean home and all of those things, and I took them out. So I still was. I was all right,
Yeah.
but I definitely wasn't. I wanted to be more than all right. They deserved me to be more than just all right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
How did it go at weekends? And obviously, don't answer this if you don't want to. But like like at weekends, if you were maybe hanging or feeling a bit run down, did you like take them out even if you were feeling rubbish, or did you just kind of have a duvet day, or was it a bit of a mixture?
yeah. To be honest, my children were away at the weekend quite a lot, so that
Mm,
was my prime time to
right,
do what I
right,
could be by myself and do
yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
was. I say wanted to do. To be honest, towards the end, I didn't want to do it anymore. I just couldn't stop myself.
yeah. You needed
Um,
to.
but during the holidays, was I a lazy parent sometimes? Yeah, absolutely. Was I selfish? Yeah, I
Yeah,
was. No, I'm really not proud of that. Um, and then sort of do everything I can now to make up for that. And part of that amends is trying to share the message and try and help other mums so that their
hmm,
children don't experience lazy, selfish parenting.
yeah. And I think like I there was someone a while back on another podcast, and they were saying about how this kid, I think they were a teacher or something, this kid had come in and it was like, what did you do at the weekend? And they were like, oh, it was great. We got to spend the entire weekend on the iPad. Now, the kid obviously
Mm,
was like beside themselves because this was great fun. Most kids are like, right, you're allowed an hour on it and then you're off. But this kid got to spend the whole
mm.
weekend. The teacher never really kind of looked into it, but he was like, thinking back, that was possibly because the parents were pretty much just hanging all weekend and just,
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, isn't it? Like
yeah,
the kids think it's all right. Like my children, they wouldn't know any of this if I hadn't have told them.
Mm-hmm.
That they wouldn't have known what
Because
I
you
was
shielded them
doing.
from it, yeah, because you still had that kind
Yeah,
of
I
moral
did.
compass
Yeah.
to go, right, you know what, I'm not having stuff lying about in bottles and all that.
No, I
Like, I
was
am
really
going to still tidy
careful.
up. Yeah, because you've still got that kind of moral, compass to kind of follow. And I get that. Like, I was the same. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. I always had hiding places for my vodka, mostly from my ex, but like, I remember one time, I think I was swigging from this bottle of vodka, and I could hear her coming in the kitchen, and I quickly kind of threw it into a cereal box. And then I realized that it was in the bran flakes. And I was like, well, no one's going to eat the bran flakes. So
No one needs
but I
those.
still had that kind of, compass mentis to hide it from the kids. I knew they wouldn't have drank it if they found it. They knew that it was vodka
No,
and
it
that they were too
wasn't
young
that.
for
It was
that.
more
But
I just didn't want them to know. I didn't want them to see. I
yeah,
didn't want. Do you know what I think as well? Like my oldest child was getting older, and people were starting to say to me, "Oh, are you going to go out drinking with her?" And I think,
mm,
oh God, I got to get a grip on this because I was starting to get sloppy. Might I offer her something I don't want her to have, or like I might encourage her to drink more, or I just. I think
yeah,
I always say like my children, as much as I wish they weren't enough to get me sober. If they were, I would have got sober a really long time ago.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but they absolutely are enough they definitely help keep me sober. Because when I
yeah.
look at them now, I think what I've got with them now is so different to what I had with them.
Because you're present.
Um, because I'm present. So like other people judge us on what they see us doing, right?
Yeah,
Including our kids. So they think everything's all right. But inside I was dying.
yeah.
And I was starting to scare myself. I was starting to think. I thought about harder substances towards the end, and I
Mm,
started to really sort of scare myself. And I'd love to tell you some really exciting story about my final rock bottom, but that there isn't one.
mm,
I had lots
yeah,
of experiences throughout my drinking and using history that most people would think, oh my God, didn't that make you stop? Why didn't you stop then? And it wasn't those. It might have been a combination of those, but ultimately, I was in my garden smoking a joint, and
hmm
I had, you know, a moment or a few moments of clarity and a window of opportunity, and it was just like, this is your time. I was so exhausted with that lifestyle, and the my mental health wasn't good. My physical health was shocking. I don't know how honestly, I don't know how I was still alive towards the end. Emotionally, I was a mess. Financially, I was a mess.
hmm
And I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I had been trying the whole year. So this was the end of August. The whole year I'd been trying to quit. So in the January, what I decided I was going to do to start moderating was I wouldn't do any coke, I wouldn't drink anything, so no other drugs, but I was allowed to smoke weed.
yeah,
And I could just about stop drinking and sniffing, but my weed consumption fucking skyrocketed. I mean, I thought I
yeah.
smoked a lot before, but this was, I couldn't get enough of it. I was smoking so much of it. I was getting up in the night to smoke it. Um, that
But
was really
also, did
fucking
you?
painful and unmanageable as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, sorry, Kaitlin, were you smoking it with tobacco as well, or just pure green?
Sometimes, but I could smoke pure green,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of the time, I mean, when I started smoking weed, I call it weed. It wasn't weed. I was smoking like resin back in the day. That's what we smoked, but we always mixed it with tobacco. So there's obviously a massive addiction there as well, because nicotine
Yeah.
and tobacco is a
Oh,
huge
also would
addiction.
have told you that I don't smoke. I
Right.
came into recovery, alcohol's not a problem, and I
Yeah.
don't smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. And
um
apart from so did you never smoke then? Like if you were going
oh
out
no,
for a night out?
yeah, I
Yeah. Yeah.
smoked when I
Yeah.
went out. I smoked when I was
Yeah.
buzzing. So basically, I smoked nearly every day, and
Yeah.
I had put cigarette in some of my spliffs. So I smoked every flipping
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
delusional, aren't we?
Oh.
When we start to get clean and we come out of that delusional state, we start to see things for what they really are or what they really
Yeah.
were, and
Yeah.
that's a bit of a game changer. And yeah, sorry, going back, I think I was doing what I would call it an on month and an off month.
Mm-hmm.
And I was starting to get to the end of what I'd called an off month. I was starting to get to the end of those and dread it being an on month the next month, because I knew that the first of whatever hits, I'm off and running again, and I've lost control, and I knew that I'd lost control by that point. So it was the end of August, when I had this moment in my garden, and I was like, yeah, sick and tired, I've been sick and tired, can't do it, I'm just fucking done, I cannot do this anymore, I don't want it to get to the 1st of September. So I googled, I had googled 6 years before what to do if you're doing too much coke, and obviously 12-step fellowship came up, and I thought, fucking hell, there's no way I can do that. But by this end of August, I was so desperate and so willing to go to any lengths that I was like, right, I'm going to go and see what it's about. And one of the things that really put me off getting sober was I was terrified that if I admitted what I was doing, I was going to lose my children. So it was really, really important to me that I went somewhere that was going to be anonymous. I really needed that security and that safety. So that was, I think that was the 29th of August. I went to the first meeting. I left that. Oh no, I went there full makeup on, dressed really nicely, hat on, so that everyone thought I wasn't as bad as them. I'm all right, guys. I've just come to see what this is all about.
I'm just an observer.
Just checking. Yeah. By the end of the meeting, I was like, hi, I'm Kaitlin. I'm an addict. I'll be back next week. And I left the meeting, had a final blowout, went back on the 5th of September. Got a sponsor, and the 6th of September is my clean date, 2022.
Nice,
and
well done.
yeah, haven't touched anything since then.
Yeah,
but it's been a wild road. It's been you get sober. Getting sober is just the fucking beginning, man. There's so much more to sobriety, and I see a lot of people say I'm sober, and I'm like, do you know what? That's brilliant. I'm really happy for you, but there is a difference between sobriety and recovery. Don't care what anyone says. There's a big difference, and I
see some people that are dry drunks, and hopefully not as often as I used to, but it is this weird phenomenon. And I was just like embracing it from the start, because I had nothing. I'd like literally moved here, and I was back living with my parents, and I just had absolute not even a pot to piss in. So everything that I've built up now is just all wins that have come from not drinking and using, and it's like, I'm like, why was I doing that? I was just constantly keeping myself down, putting my life in a dangerous place, and alienating myself from friends, family, and loved ones. And it's just madness. The buzz had gone a long time ago, and like the high had gone a long time ago.
Yeah, 100%. But the answer to that, why was I doing it? It's because we'd lost control.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
we were powerless. We were powerless. And for me, the moment alcoholics and addicts are like egomaniacs, right? You can't tell me what to do. I'm very, very stubborn. I like to be in control, or think I'm in control. But the moment I was willing to go to any lengths and let go of that and let something else more powerful than me in, everything started to change for the better. Now, that's not to say that it's been a walk in the park, because it isn't always. In fact, the very beginning was absolute hell. It was, I cried every day for months. It was horrible. But that white knuckling stage before, you really start to get into the work of the steps.
The first 3 months are just,
it was hell.
Yeah,
it was really awful. But
the only time I was happy in those first 3 months was when I was at a meeting, and I was doing meetings like every day, because it was during COVID, so I could do them online, but I was doing like 2 a day over here. I was going to like drugs and alcohol team, just anything I could. It became my new addiction for those first 100 days. And I would feel like rubbish, and then I'd go to a meeting and I'd come out buzzing, and I was like, right, this is this is good. This is good. Yeah.
No, it definitely is. It's worked wonders for me. Like, it's not for everybody, but it saved my life. So I don't feel like I'll ever sort of turn my back on it.
Do you still go now?
Having said, God, yeah. Look, if addiction is chronic and deadly. If I
Of
don't
course
want
it
to
is. No, and
die,
it don't. I mean, me asking you
I
that,
need to
don't
stay
ever take that as
sober.
like a slant against it. I love it, and I did it. There's reasons why I don't go as often now, but I'm still part of the addiction charity that used to host those meetings, and I do smart and I do
Mm.
other things with them. So it's not. I'm not putting a slant on you.
And
I
you're
was just
giving back
asking if
by
you go
doing
back.
this.
Well,
You
exactly.
know,
This is my kind of meetings, you know. So yeah, thank you.
yeah, I do I still do what I did when I first came into recovery. So I've still got, a morning and evening routine of prayer and gratitude meditation.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
of service to my fellowship. I sponsor other women. I engage in unity with them. And as a result of that, I get to live a fairly normal life. Having said
Yeah.
that, I'm nearly 3.5 years in. So do I explore other avenues now? Yeah, of course I do. I think anyone with a brain is going to sort of see what else is out there.
Hmm.
And I share my message in other ways. I do quite a lot. I've done quite a few podcasts, but the reason I do them is because they helped me so much at the beginning.
Hmm.
And I always do them, and without fail, I'll leave and I think, oh, I did a really shit job of that. I didn't, it wasn't a message of depth and weight and blah, 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 because that's how my addiction gets me now. It tells me I'm not good enough. And it tells me to go and eat food that I don't need to eat. But sort of going back to the podcast thing, is that just hearing other people's experiences was extremely powerful for me. I think,
Yeah.
you know,
I think for
the
me,
collective energy of a sober community is more powerful and beneficial than ever trying to do something on your own. So listening to podcasts in the car, those times where my head would try to get on me, when I'm cooking, when I'm in the
yeah,
car, when I'm trying to potter around the house, something, I put on recovery podcasts, listen to other people's experiences, and that gave me hope, awareness, and faith that everything could be all right. If you'd
yeah,
said to me 4 years ago I'd be online talking about pissing in buckets and not being able to go to the toilet because I'm an addict, I would not have believed you. But I also do it because it just sort of shows that wherever you're at in your recovery journey, if that's still in active addiction or alcoholism, that anything is possible, especially when you take a one day at a time approach to it.
yeah,
For me, at the beginning, that was 1 minute at a time sometimes. But anything is possible. So, don't give up hope or faith that you can turn your life around as well, because if I can do it, if you can do it, then other people can do it.
yeah. Kaitlin, I love that. I mean, like that's exactly why I do the podcast, because, and I know there's hundreds of other ones out there, but for me, it's like I want to get people on to share their stories, because when I was in the meetings, in the rooms at the beginning, going in there and hearing other people's stories every day, week, whatever, that's what kept me sober. So I know a lot of people aren't going to meetings actively, but they're listening to podcasts, they're watching your Instagram reels and notes, which are so full of just deep, meaningful connectivity and inclusivity. I love them. And that's
Thank
exactly why we
you.
do it, because a lot of people now are not, they're not in, maybe they don't want to go into a meeting because they think someone's going to see them there. And I'm like, let's do it. It's the whole reason
I
they're
had
there as
that
well.
fear,
So yeah, everybody does. Everyone's
but
like, I
they're
don't
there
want to be
for a
seen.
reason. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people as well, like, that's another reason why I like doing Instagram, is like a lot of people, like I was, would look at something like NACA, AA, whichever one you
Mm-hmm.
want to go to, and think, oh, I'm not that bad, I don't need to go to something like that. And then they will hear somebody like me or you
Mm-hmm.
share their experience and think, oh, okay, well, it's just normal people who just want to get better. It's not
Yeah.
that preconceived idea of what people think it is, what I used to think it was. But they might hear something in my story or something in my share and think, oh, actually, maybe I should give that a go.
Mm-hmm. Someone that was on the podcast, Emily, she said she went to a meeting where she was told, her friend was saying, why don't you go to a meeting? And I think it was AA. And she said, well, I'm not an alcoholic. And her friend said, well, what do you think an alcoholic is? And she said, well, someone that's like lost their job, alienated themselves from their family, maybe drinking on a park bench. And she was like, and her friend went, or, and she went, what do you mean? She went, somebody who wants to give up alcohol but can't. And she was like,
Mm.
oh, right. Yeah. Well, that's me then. Do you know what I mean? And it was that simple, and that
Mm,
little twist of vocabulary kind of made her think, yeah, why have I got all these preconceived ideas of what an addict is when the addict, it can be anyone. It doesn't discriminate, you know, and
does
that's
not
the
discriminate.
thing.
It's anyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's people, as I've said before, I see people in Tesco's all the time and I'm like, oh, my heart breaks for them because they're like filled their shopping trolley full of booze, which they clearly look like they can't afford, but that's all that's in the trolley. And I just want to go over and give them a big hug and go, there's a way out of
Mm,
this, but I'm not going to start doing that
yeah.
because I'd be a
No,
weirdo.
and I've learned the hard way not to do that. You know, it is
Mm.
attraction, not promotion.
Yeah.
There's a guy I see in my corner shop, and I see him in there shaking, buying 20 different scratch cards, and you can see his nails are all dark from where he's scratching scratch cards. And I looked inside his van the other day, and it was just full of them. And I'm like, I want to shake him and go, oh, come to a
Yeah.
meeting, there is a solution, but you can't do that. And I definitely learned that the hard way, because when I first got sober, I think it's quite a common thing, but like the arrogance of, I found a way out, like, look, follow me. And I try to bring some of my friends with me, and they're not my friends anymore. And I do wonder if that's because, you know, I tried to push something on them that they weren't ready for.
Mm-hmm.
So I just am
As you
very
say,
careful.
they know where you are and they might come back to you later on down the road, you know,
Yeah,
because they're
if
like,
that's
oh,
what's meant to be, you know,
yeah,
maybe those people are only meant to be in my life when we needed each other most. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm not God. I'll find out one day.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm really trying to be really careful with like my Instagram and stuff. It's like I don't give tips. I don't tell anyone what to do. I just try
mm,
and share. This is where I'm at. I'm by no means a finished article. um, I had this experience, or this is what I did to do that. But I really don't like telling people what to do, because I know that if people had come to me when I was in active addiction and said, you've got a problem, you need to do this, I would have just gone to fuck off and
yeah,
isolated
absolutely.
myself even more.
Because you weren't ready and I wasn't ready, but then when I was ready, it was like, okay, let's do this. And like when people message me and say, oh, what did you do? How did you do it? And I'm like, well, all I can tell you, all I can suggest to you is what worked for me. That might not work for
That's
you,
exactly what I say.
but I'm like, try everything, you know, throw everything like spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. Like I was doing everything. I was doing NA, CA, AA, SMART. I was doing drugs and alcohol. I was doing stuff online. I was reading books. I was watching YouTube. I was, listening to podcasts. And
Mm.
eventually,
Learning,
yeah, learning, exactly. Doing research, actually
exploring.
going, Jesus, alcohol and drugs. Well, alcohol especially, because that was my main thing, is like, it's so poisonous. Like I had no idea how really bad it was, like how carcinogenic
Mm.
it is. And I saw a post the other day and they were talking about, it was just on Facebook, and it was saying how the World Health Organization is now classified bacon, sausages, and ham as like category one carcinogen. And I was like, all right, okay. I mean, I know that red meat and that kind of stuff's bad for you, but in moderation. But also it said category one carcinogen along with tobacco, uh, asbestos, and radiation. This news article left out alcohol because alcohol is in that top category. But this news article
Mm.
decided to leave alcohol out. And it's like, why? Why have you've obviously got that information from the World Health Organization where you would see alcohol in there, but you've chosen not to put that in this article. It's like you're trying to warn
Yeah.
people about the dangers of having streaky bacon or whatever, but you're just choosing to remove that alcohol part there, and it's baffling why people seem to have this cultural love of alcohol can do no bad, and it's like just give into it, guys. It is bad for you, you know. It's mad.
Yeah, I think times are changing though, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think people are, especially as more and more people are going like on health kicks and wanting to look after themselves, people are starting to learn just how
Absolutely.
bad.
And like we say, like not everyone is, you know, as bad as kind of we got, but I think maybe they should try and stop it before it maybe gets that way, you know. I don't know. It is. I'm not obviously saying that alcohol is going to be outlawed and it's going to be illegal and any of that. That's never going to happen. But all I've said is like, let's put warnings on the bottles. Like I know what we're saying about tobacco. It didn't stop us, but it might stop some people. You know, people might pick up a bottle and go, "Oh, I didn't know it caused like, 7 types of cancer. Oh, maybe I'll have something else instead. You know what I mean? If it just helps one person at a time, then yeah, it might make a difference. But people are getting healthier. People are kind of researching and doing their own research. So yeah, it's a strange world out there. What advice would you give, Kaitlin, to people that were kind of just early days or sober curious, or just thinking I need to do something about this problem?
Those are two different questions.
Yeah, well, yes,
Um,
true.
yeah, like I said, I do try and be really careful about giving somebody advice because
Yeah.
I don't want to put somebody off. But all I can tell you is what worked for me, and that was getting to a meeting. I really needed to let go of my stubbornness and my self-will, my arrogance, and just let somebody help me.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time, like you just said, exploring, finding out what it meant to be an addict or an alcoholic, and just educating myself. I learned a lot about the neuroscience of it all. That I found that really helpful. But yeah, ultimately, what worked for me was 12-step fellowship. I think
Mm-hmm.
you just got to be brave. You know, I think realizing that you've got a problem is the biggest step, and then the next step is, get into a meeting. Once you've got your foot through that door, you've done the hardest part. So embrace what's waiting out there for you, because there is a beautiful life waiting out there
Yeah.
for all of us. Anyone who's stuck and thinks that they can't get sober, you absolutely can. You just got to find the right people, find the right place, and do what works for you. What worked for me doesn't necessarily work for anyone else. So if that way doesn't work for you, find another way. I do hear people making a lot of excuses to not get sober.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, the help's not here, or no one's helping me. Well, I'm sorry, but if you want to get sober, you need to take the action. It's
Yeah.
for you to do. It's not for anyone else. No one can do it for you. You've got to put your big girl or big boy pants on and go out there and find something if it's what you really want.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I think that's great. And Kaitlin, do you regret getting sober and clean?
No. No
No.
way. I'd be dead if I hadn't have got sober and clean. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And
No,
like
like I want to be here for my kids.
how much more has your life got better since making that step?
It's immeasurable, because
Yeah.
my life was pretty shit before. I was very blessed to have my 3 children, but other than that, it was a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
hear you. I hear
it's
you.
not perfect now. I still make mistakes. I still have to say sorry. Um, but yeah, there's no words to describe how much better my life is, because I've not
No.
experienced this kind of life before. But will I swap? No way.
No, we still have our
No
ups and
way.
downs, but you know what? What is it they say? Like my worst day sober far, far exceeds and outweighs my best day when I was in active addiction, you know.
You know what? I never used to understand that saying, because I was like, listen, I had loads of great days in active addiction. I really did. And I
Yeah,
defy anyone to say that anything different.
yeah.
So my worst day in recovery for my best day, no, I wouldn't swap if you're looking at it like that. But what I wouldn't do is go back for one day, because it wouldn't be one day.
Yeah, no, I like, yeah, and I think when I say that, I mean towards the end. Like I'm probably talking my last
Mm.
year of active addiction was just pure hell. But if you're going back like
Mm.
20 years, like yeah, I had some amazing times when I was, in my 20s and 30s, but like the last year, maybe 2 years was just absolutely hell. So I think
Mm.
that's where I take my, yeah, if I say
Yeah,
my best day.
I
I
know.
know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're picking holes in my
I know.
well, it's not even mine. It's not even mine. I've stolen it, but yeah, it's no. I totally agree, because we did have good time, and I don't have any regrets. I used to ask people on the podcast if you could go back to when you maybe started drinking and using, when it became like an issue. If you could go back, would you switch? Would you tell that your own self to go on a different path? And like the resounding answer was, well, I'll let you answer it first. So if you could go back to say when you were like 14, 15 or 16, when you had your first line and
Yeah.
you were going off in that other path, if you could go back and tell yourself to, no, do you know what? Maybe steer this path and go sober.
That girl wouldn't have listened to
Yeah.
future me for starters.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have worked. I just don't think that would work. And
Yeah.
I'm here for a reason. My life's gone the way it's gone for a reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm
And you
okay with
wouldn't be
where I
the
am now.
person
If
that
I was,
you wouldn't be the person that you are.
I
So I
wouldn't
stopped
be who
asking
I am
questions
today.
because I'm
And
like,
I actually, when you hear people say I'm very grateful, recovered addict, I feel like that. I do. Do I wish certain situations were different? Yeah, of course I do.
mhm.
But ultimately, overall, I wouldn't change it.
Nah, nah.
Yeah, look, yeah, I definitely, there are situations I can pinpoint and think, oh, I really wish I was more present with my kids for that, or really wish this. But all of that's what's got me here. And I don't know where I would be if I hadn't have been this person. I could have gone a completely different path and have been equally as unhappy or more unhappy. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know exactly. It doesn't even bear thinking about because, like, you know what? I got married in August last year. I've got an amazing little family. I've got like relationships with my immediate family, all so much better than what they were before. And if I'd gone in some other path, like I wouldn't be reveling in the life that I've got now. And as we said, like I do have my
No.
up days and down days, and life's not perfect, but it's so much better than what it was. And I don't want to think about who I might have been had I not been ever,
No. And you know
drinking,
what? Like the
using.
drink and drugs were the solution to my problem. They weren't my problem. Me and how I felt and
Yeah,
who I am. That's where the root cause was. So if I hadn't have had drink and drugs, because actually in a way they saved me, because they were my
yeah,
coping mechanism. They got me to here. If I hadn't
yeah,
have had those as a coping mechanism, what else might I have picked up? Because I would have picked something else up because that's who I am. So
yeah.
actually, I wouldn't change it.
I might have been climbing skyscrapers and fallen
Yeah.
off one. Do you know what I mean? Like not being
Yeah.
world famous and on Netflix, but just climbing it for a bit of a few extra likes on Instagram and then
For a
accidentally falling
buzz.
off. And yeah, so that doesn't even bear thinking about.
No.
Where can people find you, Kaitlin?
People can find me on Instagram. I've done lots of other podcasts, but I won't name them on here.
No,
But
that's
yeah, I'm
fine.
on
You can.
Instagram. It's called Sober as a Mother Focused.
Yeah, I love
Um,
it. It's a great name.
do you know what? I think I was just changing it one because it was originally my personal Instagram, like,
Yeah,
and I just started posting little bits about my sobriety, and it kind of took off. So I was like, right, I need to give it a name, and I was like, oh, just sober as a motherfucker, and I was like, oh, do you know what other word can I use for fucker? And I was
yeah,
like, yeah, that works really well because ultimately my main focus is my children. So being a mum is what I always wanted to be. So that name works. And then yeah, so that's where people can find me sober as a mother focused on
yeah. I love it.
Instagram.
It just slips off the tongue, and also you might, say the wrong thing if you're saying it quickly. So yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got any
Who
recommendations? I know
doesn't
you
love a bit of
recommended.
cheekiness?
Well, exactly. It's great. When I saw it, I was like, oh yeah. When I was like, I read it, and then when I read it out loud in my head, I was like, oh, I see what she's done there. That's smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Have you got any recommendations for a book, podcast, or a film with regards to recovery?
Yeah, I highly recommend, and I don't think it's intended to be, but please, anyone read Rachel's Holiday and Again Rachel by Marion Keyes.
Cool.
I've read them in the madness and I've read them in recovery, and I've got two different experiences with them, but both of them have been very, very beneficial to my recovery.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, I'll add them to the show notes. Any podcast or film? You don't have to if you've not really, because film's always been a massive thing for me. And I've seen you might enjoy The Outrun. It was based on a book by Amy Liptrot, but it was out as a film not last year, the year before, and it's got Saoirse Ronan in it. It's just an amazing depiction of alcoholism, drug use. Yeah, it's an awesome film.
Oh, do you know what? I actually watched a TV show on BBC. I kind of can't remember what the name of it was now, but that was really good. It was about this man and this woman, and it showed them meeting at Edinburgh University, and then you'd see them a year on.
Oh
coming
yeah,
back together, and
I
he
think it's
was an
called One
alcoholic.
Day.
That's it. That I really
Yeah,
liked that. I thought that showed it really well.
yeah.
Um, Films, not so. Oh, do you know what? When I was younger, I watched that film 13, and I
Oh,
remember my friend saying to me, "Oh, you really remind me of that girl in 13," and I was like, "Oh, wicked, cool." But when I look at it, I'm like, "Oh shit, that was me. It really was me." So I think it
mm.
does portray it really well. And what was the other thing? Podcast. Oh, that's really tricky because I've been on quite a few, and I wouldn't want a favorite one.
Oh
But
no, it's all
what
good.
I would say I listen to the most is probably Addicted to Recovery.
Yeah, great one, great one. I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
I mean, there are loads out there, but I've got my favorites, and then I'll speak to someone else, and they've got their favorites. So there's just, do you know what I mean? It's whatever kind of resonates with you, and I love the fact that there are so many out there because
mm.
they're growing and growing and growing, and it's like it just gives so many people a different outlook or a different kind of scope on getting into recovery and getting better. So I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kaitlin, for coming on. It's been amazing getting to know you, hearing your story, and yeah, I'm just I love hearing different people's stories and getting to know them. So thank you. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you inviting me on because do you know what? Like a few years ago, nobody would have wanted my name next to anything to do with them. So it's a privilege to be able to come on and work on your podcast with you.
Well, thank you, and have an amazing
Thank you.
afternoon, and we'll chat
You
to you
too.
soon.
All right, take care.
Cheers, Kaitlin. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kaitlin. Amazing guest, amazing story, and just so full of hope and prosperity now that she's sober and clean. From going from like being kidnapped and waking up in just some dubious kind of surroundings to then just realizing that this wasn't serving her anymore and that she needed to make a change, and doing everything and anything that was suggested for her. I love the fact that she's still steeped in the kind of fellowship and using that and helping others, because she's done her 12 steps, and she's kind of helping sponsor other people, especially kind of women and mothers, to get themselves sober, but still making sure that she's not preaching or trying to give tips and things, just kind of keeping it that this is what worked for Kaitlin, and then that can potentially help others. So yeah, check out her page as Sober as a Mother Focused. Always makes me laugh when I read that back. I don't know why. I'm just a child at heart. But yeah, just an amazing story. So thank you, Kaitlin, for coming on and sharing your story. I know that a lot of people are going to get, or I've listened to it now and are getting so much help out of it, because it's just those little things that kind of, when you listen for the similarities, to just go, oh yeah, do you know what? That's me. Why am I still stuck in this way? Why don't I do what Kaitlin did and get myself out of it? And then, like as she said, her life is unfathomably different compared to what it was in the past. And, she was always trying to kind of escape into that fantasy realm of just escaping from reality. And she thought that was what was, kind of being beneficial for her life, when we all know that it's not. And it's just kind of making sure that people are not stuck in that way, and trying to make a difference and get themselves out of it, because there's just really it's a no-brainer. So thank you again, Kaitlin. Apparently we've not had a single dry day this year. What are we on, like the 12th of February, as it is Thursday today? It's Wednesday for me, but Thursday for you guys. So yeah, like 43 days into the year and we've still not had a dry day. I love being a gardener, but I just can't wait for spring. Thank you guys for listening, watching, wherever you are. Just put a comment in, message Kaitlin as well, and say happy birthday to her. Message the podcast, let us know what you're thinking, what you want to see more of. Just kind of, yeah, we want feedback, and this is how we grow. I want to just say thank you to everyone that's listening and watching. So stick a 5-star review on for me saying thank you. Don't know what I'm talking about. I'm waffling now. I'm in the car and it's raining. But yeah, thanks again, Kaitlin. Have an amazing weekend, guys. Thursday's the new day for drop day, so you know we're coming up on the weekend. Just remember, if you are thinking about going to the pub on Friday night or having a drink at home, think twice about it. You know, just sit with it and go, why am I doing this? What do I need this for? And it will pass, and then you can get through the weekend, and then your future self on Monday will be thanking you for it. So yeah, share the podcast, guys. As I say, hit the 5-star review, put a comment, use the fan mail thing on Buzzsprout, and yeah, have a great weekend, guys. So stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. Love you all. Peace.